One of the other most popular topics in India right now. This week, we saw the release of the film Lal Singh Chadda, which has already faced controversy even before it's released. It's always been the subject of a boycott movement. But from the reviews that are coming now, we see that the people who did watch the movie came out and also spoke against it. So, what is
Ah,
your take? What is your take on this, Panditji, and why do you think this is happening?
well, I think it's a wonderful confirmation that as a civilization, we are putting up defenses against what are clearly psychological operations designed to harm us, to undermine us, to demean us, to reduce our self-esteem, all of those things. We are a civilization who gave the world the idea of sanskar, those deep rooted truths that we accept. And we have good sanskar in our civilization. Wherever Sanatanis, whichever part of the world we go, it's our sanskars, our dharmic sanskars, which guide us to be so accommodating, to be gentle, to be productive members of society, to help and support. And those sanskar have been under attack for decades, under the guise of entertainment. Bollywood was actually an anti-sanskar, anti-dharmic sanskar factory. It was spewing ideas into the atmosphere, which are polluting ideas. And the intention of those ideas has never been anything other than to continuously portray anything which is adharmic, anything which is non-sanatani, as being superior, to be aspired, to be admired, all of those things. And anything which is traditional, cultural, civilizational, uniquely Bharatiya or part of our Sanskriti, that was always criticized. It was always made the butt of jokes and denigrated. The intention was always to reduce our impression and our respect for our ancestors and ourselves. And it's heartwarming to see that in such a short space of time now, we are seeing enough people mobilizing to be able to say no and to work together and to participate in a community and indeed a nationwide act of civil rejection. So this is almost like another Satyagraha 2022, which is beginning to happen, and that's great to see. I am hoping that very soon, not only do these agents of chaos find themselves so confined as to become impotent, but also an element of justice and redress is sought from them. They have amassed a huge amount of wealth, a huge amount of power and influence, and they have done so at the detriment and to the harm of the indigenous Bharatiya civilization. And that harm shouldn't be just ignored. Hindus, we are encouraged to छोड़ो कोई बात नहीं, chalega. But that is not how one secures a just future. Without justice, there is actually no mechanism to prevent a continuation of the abuse that has been inflicted to date. So it's a great development. I'm really hoping that Bollywood, the swamp that Bollywood has become, will be drained and drained very, very rapidly. It's an uncomfortable thought, but there are people in Bollywood who name their children after mass murderers, people who openly inflicted devastating genocides on the Bharatiya people. And yet they seem to think that that's okay. In Germany, nobody would dream of naming their child Adolf or something associated with a genocide. And yet Bollywood seems to think it can. I think Bollywood probably needs to rethink now because it can't.
It's actually a sight to see, Panditji, especially for us who know and who have felt so misrepresented, so angry about being presented in this way and having to listen to everybody that speaks about us based on Bollywood representation. And it's so weird. Sorry.
No,
It's so
I was agreeing. Please continue. Yeah.
And it's also very ironic to think that, arts, performing arts, theater, Natya Shastra, it is it is something which is a it's not a fundamental concept, but it is a significant concept in Hinduism. It's revered, all forms of arts, in fact. And Bollywood has used this power to be able to create something, to be able to deliver a message, to let people think badly about this very culture, which actually encourages their existence.
Another thought that occurred to me is that in Britain, the last person who was executed for treason was actually a character who used to broadcast. His name was, his sort of nom de plume was Lord Haw Haw. And he used to broadcast radio messages which were intended to demoralize, which were intended to cause a loss of spirit and courage in the British population at the time of the Second World War. And so the importance of messaging, the importance of recognizing the harm that can be done by people who have access to movie, film, radio, etc., that is an importance we need to recognize. It's very, very critical at this time. And as I've just mentioned it, we have an awful lot of people who use freedom of speech to do exactly what Lord Haw Haw did. The only difference was that Lord Haw Haw functioned at a time when war had been declared. We are now in a time when war is apparent. It hasn't been openly declared, but this is the manner in which war is conducted at this time, asymmetric war. So I think it's worth our Bollywood directors and producers that they reflect on this issue. There is a need to build the civilization. They need to stop undermining this ancient indigenous civilization, and the civilization will reward them or punish them according to their choice.
Absolutely, Panditji. Very nicely put, Nilfal.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.